No one asks to be born the sex, sexuality, or skin color that they are. But all of these identities are assigned to you once you enter this world. When the nurse presses your little foot against a little ink pad to make an imprint on your birth certificate, you might as well just notarize a document that states the level of discrimination, hate, and injustice you will face throughout the rest of your life. Now, while I know that no one should be ashamed to be born the way they are, clearly society favors some of us more than others. As a man, I know I will have opportunities that my mother and my sister will never be able to have, something I've come to understand and deeply dispute, as the suffragettes of the 1920s did so famously. In the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, they stated and quoted that they wanted to protest against a form of government existing without the consent of the governed. It's been 170 years since then. And we have made immense amounts of progress, but there's still a lot of work that we can do. Because men and women aren't truly equal. But if we want to live in a society in which we are, we need to focus on three major issues. The economic, intersectional, and international, and medical issues that make everyday life harder for women prevent us from achieving that true equality. The World Bank published a report titled Women, Business, and Law 2019, A Decade of Reform, where they looked at countries across the globe examining the progress that they've made implementing equal rights legislation to advance economic mobility for women in the societies in which they live. The United States was on that list. Under 60 different countries, scoring 83.75, aka a B- in Equality 101. Now, that's kind of an issue. And you want to know why? Because for some reason, the United States still hasn't implemented important legislation guaranteeing equal pay for equally valued work. Meaning that situations like when Mark Wahlberg made 8 times more than his female counterpart, despite being co-stars in the same movie and having the exact same amount of screen time, yeah, those situations can still happen, and can still happen freely. So no wonder the AAUW found that the women's pay gap is 82% of a man's median salary, something that drops to 54% according to Leaders Up organization if you're a Latina woman or someone of minority origin. That's highly concerning to me, because that means that we don't have equal pay for equally valued work. We don't have true equality for men and women. Gosh, if only there was some sort of amendment that was created that allowed men and women to be treated equally under the Constitution. Oh wait, it's called the Equal Rights Amendment, was drafted in 1923 by famous suffragette Alice Paul. So it seems there's at least one suffragette that's still suffering. Speaking of suffering, let's talk about women's health care. Ooh, that's a great topic to talk about, because guess what? Women's health care, since 1993, has been mandated that biological sex must be found in research. Whenever medical research is conducted, it must be reported. You want to know what the issue with that is? Well, less than 1/3 of cardiovascular research has included women in their studies, and less than 1/3 of the participants in their studies were actually women. Something that is deeply concerning when you consider the fact that women have different symptoms when it comes to cardiovascular disease, including heart attacks, according to the Mayo Clinic in 2019 and Forbes and The Guardian in 2015. So why exactly are we not valuing women's health care more? I mean, Planned Parenthood is at constant threat of being defunded, despite providing important resources for women, from STD screening to general health care. And I don't understand why we don't value them more. Because I want a better quality of life for my sister, for my mother. But that's besides the point. I've already illustrated that equality is not necessarily a truth within our society. But I will continue further. Because the suffragettes weren't just a national organization. They didn't just believe in equality for women on a national level. They wanted international independence and international freedom. That's why if they heard about the sexual morality laws that exist in countries like Iran, where young girls as young as 13 years old are stoned to death on trumped-up charges of adultery, they would be horrified. In fact, Baroness Cox from the United Kingdom, on her second reading of her equality bill, specifically tackling the issues, the tribunals that are making discriminatory practices towards these women in UK courts, she stated that if the suffragettes were able to see what most Muslim women are suffering through today, they would roll in their graves. Now, I understand that it's probably strange for me, a man, to be lecturing you about women's issues, considering that I've never had to work twice as hard for lower pay. I've never lived in a society where just because of the sex I am, I'm given a lower quality of health care. And I've never lived in a society where I've constantly been attacked. My private information has been stripped from me, and I've been charged with trumped-up charges of life or death situations. I've never had that. But I do know a lot of strong women, like my mother and my sister, people who I want to have the same quality of life as me, to have the same opportunities that I have. I know that men and women aren't truly equal, but I want to see a day when we are. As Susan B. Anthony once said, independence is happiness. Thank you very much.